our opening match of the SuperClash 3 pay-per-view. A 6-man tag of the Guerrero brothers, Mando, Chavo, and Hector Guerrero versus the Rock and Roll RPMs and Cactus Jack. Now, Rock and Roll RPMs, I read about. This is the first time I've actually seen them. The Rock and Roll RPMs are definitely a world-class version of the Rock and Roll Express. Mike Davis and Tommy Lane. I know Mike Davis, who's a former NWA Junior Champion. If not mistaken, he fought Danny Brown for the Junior title at Strike 84. Tommy Lane, was a jobber, but both these guys became jobbers. But it's now 1988, so they've had a push in world class in the AWA. So it's the Rock and Roll RPMs, which is a pretty cool name in it. I know it takes a good name to match to be to really work. It is a good name compared to some current names.
But as performers, they still don't match up to the actual Rock and Roll.
No, did the Rockers ever a match up with the Rock and Roll Express? They were. Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty. If that would have been a hell of a match if the Rockers went against the Rock and Roll Express, that'd be one hell of a match. But in a 6-man tag, it was pretty wild. The 3 Guerrero brothers. I had to make sure Mando is the second. It was Mando Guerrero. He is the second oldest to Gory, who was the father. There's Hector and Chavo Guerrero, who are more well-known. Hector and Chavo Guerrero are the more well-known, the Guerrero brothers. They were a territory tag team a long time. Cactus Jack, who became... He went through so many of the territories that he became, in his own right, one of the most hardcore individuals. He didn't care about how much he hurt his body in so many bumps. But this is his early days.
Oh yeah, so it's interesting.
The Rock and Roll RPMs and Cactus Jack are representatives of the world class. But since this show, pay-per-view, is a combination of world class and AWA competitors, and it came down to
Chavo Guerrero winning with an off the top rope. It almost looked like a moonsault.
The blonde was, I believe, was Tommy Lane, because I know the dark hair was Mike Davis. So it was a pretty wild match. I'll give it granted for the opening 6-man tag team match for this pay-per-view. The Guerreros over the Rock and Roll RPMs and Cactus Jack.
That's definitely that would be funny.
All right, next match of the night for the SuperClash pay-per-view is WCCW light heavyweight champion Jeff Jarrett, young Jeff Jarrett, versus also young Eric Embry, both representatives of the world class AWA. Now, the only one thing that threw me off was the WCCW pronouncing of the title. I know when we just watched, we had reviewed the 3rd annual Von Erich Parade Champions. Rick Rude was the WCWA, the world class world heavyweight champion. And this show is in this pay-per-view is 1988. So how is world class championship wrestling when they broke away from the NWA? That's a strange pronunciation. They're going by the WCCW when they did change them to WCWA. Now, very young Jeff Jarrett
is entering this match as the actual light heavyweight champion.
And he's the world-class light heavyweight champion.
And he's facing the former champion.
Eric Embry. And Eric Embry, I paid attention to him when I read about him when world-class would change names and become USWA in Texas, the Texas-based one. And the Jarretts would become a USWA Memphis-based. But something went wrong with the Jeff Jarrett situation. He apparently hurt his shoulder. They're calling it dislocated it. He hurt his shoulder. It really affected him in this match.
Honestly, I think it was just a funny bone scenario where he landed wrong with the elbow.
Yes, and the match didn't. It seemed it was a fair match, but not really. As soon as the moment Jeff Jarrett landed wrong or hurt his arm, they were saying it was dislocated. It really affected him in this match. And Eric Embry got a quick pin, and Jeff Jarrett could not kick out. And so Eric Embry regained the WCCW
for the
fourth time. So a second match and a title change in the SuperClash pay-per-view.
My sympathy towards
our next match of the night
is a very, very short match involving, Wayne Bloom?
Wayne Bloom, who was actually, I think, is active with AWA's Destruction Crew, Mike, and his tag team partner will become Mike Enos, who's actually playing a referee. Wayne Bloom versus
my brother's favorite performer of all time, and I do mean that sarcastically because my brother can't stand this man, Jimmy Valiant.
Well, he's going by his Memphis-based name, Handsome Jimmy Valiant, where in Crockett he'd be Jimmy Boogie Woogie Man Valiant. The problem that I have with Jimmy Valiant is every time he's a hell of a good talker, but every time he gets hit, he's having a seizure.
And the match itself actually had a very unusual finish where...
Before the finish, Jimmy Valiant, he started acting like Shawn Michaels or something, and he starts stomping his foot. He's against the rope, stomping his foot. Wayne Bloom comes on, hits him on the back. Next thing we know, Jimmy Valiant's covering him for the pin, and this is a practical copy of what happened earlier earlier this year, February 1988, when... it was Earl Hebner, the twin brother of Dave Hebner, made a count with his head down to the mat, facing downward, making a 3 count. Wayne Bloom kicked out at 2 and 3/4. He kicked out. We saw it. We replayed it again. He did kick out.
So in retrospect, I'm wondering if this was just them mocking that finish by having that kind of a scenario.
It was an exact copy.
Now, you know what the strange...
But okay, it was a kick out where Hogan put his shoulder up
after one.
But this wasn't a title match.
Right. Now one last thing about this match, which is the craziest part. We've talked almost for 2 minutes about this match, and that is longer than the match itself took place.
Also, one other thing I noticed about Jimmy Valiant, so they announced his name. He got his long blonde hair. He's also missing his beard. How long? I know you lost your beard back in 1986, Paul Jones in the Bash Summer Tour, and you beat Paul Jones in the Thanksgiving. Why haven't you grown back your beard? You got your long hair, but your famous long beard is missing. Whoa, he's missing his beard. Jimmy Valiant gets a few seconds, less than a minute. Like I will really want to say a pinfall. On a referee's, referee did a normal count, but he did not. He was looking straight down at the mat rather than seeing Mike Enos kicked out after 2 count. And unfortunately, Handsome Jimmy Valiant won this. Next match of the night. I don't know what. Strangely enough, the announcers, the TV announcers said they call it a battle between Memphis and
Texas versus Memphis.
What in the world?
Anyway,
both are world class based wrestlers.
But the match itself involved the Texas champion Iceman Parsons versus
Brickhouse Brown. And I said, strangely enough, the way it was announced, and the way they both entered the match, they were both almost samely dressed. I thought they were coming in as a tag team.
Yeah,
they both came in at the same exact time, wearing almost the same exact outfits. And I don't know why I thought one of them. I thought Brickhouse Brown was the Texas Texas champion, and Iceman King Parsons, he was the WCW champion. But no, it's Kerry Von Erich who's the world class champion. I remember, because Kerry had already won it from Parsons earlier. But this is not the label. I don't want to use how I describe it. It is unusual for a company to put 2 black wrestlers engaging.
We're talking in the late 80s, so it's a different time. For that era, it was definitely unusual.
Yeah, you also mentioned one thing about the arena, UIC Pavillion. And this is the same one that everybody bitched Stark 87 was used in. It is a less than 6 to 8,000 seat arena. It's not 10 or 20,000. We said the lighting could have been...
Because you don't see the audience at all. It makes the whole thing look like it's a dark show with only a few hundred people on there, which it wasn't.
I don't even think if they even put the lights on, it would make it look bigger. I don't think so.
No, but it would look like it was packed, and you can angle it right. But this way, it looks like nobody's there.
But you also asked me earlier that AWA would run shows in Chicago. Hell yes, Comiskey Stadium. Then major AWA always ran shows in Comiskey Stadium. I believe it was in Chicago, but it was. Iceman King Parsons wrapped his fist up in a heavy amount of tape. I saw Fritz Von Erich do the same thing in the 6-man match in the first Von Erich Credit Champions. He had his fist held up in tape, and Iceman Parsons, he put this on, and he punched and laid out.
Just knocked him right out.
Punched and laid out Brickhouse Brown, and Parsons pins Brown and retains the Texas Heavyweight title. Next match tonight is a mixed six-man tag. AWA Women's Champion Wendy Richter, who is actually my all-time favorite women's wrestler, and they teaming up with the team out of the AWA. I had never honestly heard of them. It's probably a team that was in the ending years of the AWA, called Top Gun, considered of Ricky Rice and Derek Dukes. And you said something about, you mentioned something about Derek Dukes.
No, depending on how long he's been in the business, the Derek Dukes thing sounds like it's an homage towards the Van Damme movie on kickboxing on was it Kumite or Bloodsport? I forgot what the heck it was called back then. But that's when I heard Derek Dukes. Yeah, when I heard Derek Dukes, that's what I thought that was an homage to.
Now they're going against Bad Company, who I know is kind of a long time tag team for them, AWA. Paul Diamond and Pat Tanaka, who eventually in the WWF will become Orient Express. They're teamed up with the former women's champion Medusa Michelli, who is also I bet she changed her name to WWF. I think it was, London Blaze.
Yeah, but then when she switched back to WCW, they just dropped her to the one name Medusa, which actually worked best.
Now they're managed by somebody I've never been impressed by. He is a fair talker as a manager. He's been okay as a manager. I never liked him as a wrestler. They are managed by Diamond Dallas Page. Yeah, I have never been a fan of this guy. He's a fair talking manager. He'd be like Michael Hayes he's a lousy wrestler version of Michael Hayes. He's a fairly good talker. Michael Hayes is a better talker and a better wrestler. Yeah. They've always said Michael Hayes of the Freebirds is not a fairly good wrestler. He's a better one than Diamond Dallas Page. Dallas Page started as a manager and then got promoted into wrestling. I don't know. I just never
It just never clicked for you.
Yeah, never clicked.
But back to the match itself.
The match was, it was wild, like any six-person match would be. It was pretty wild. The one thing now, when it comes to the ending of the match, was a kind of, I wouldn't say an accident, but Medusa was holding Wendy Richter. Pat Tanaka goes to do a savate kick, and he actually strikes Wendy Richter. It's like, geez. The men are not supposed to be fighting the women. Yeah. But then he goes for a second kick and kicks Medusa. She goes down, and Wendy Richter covers for the pin. And when they went, and actually the titles were on. Their titles were on the line though. Wendy Richter's women's title and the Top Gun's tag titles were on the line. So they said the trio of champions won this match. But again, I said. I know this is going to be sounding so disrespectful, Diamond Dallas Page. Yeah. I was at a movie convention with my in-laws, and Diamond Dallas Page was at a table. I would not pay him $1 for his autograph. That's how much I didn't like him. And I mean, he is barely a man. He's a good manager. You talk about, he can have a mouthpiece and a voice. Yeah. I remember at a WCW pay-per-view watching it, and just as it starts, he mouths off, when the hell is this pay-per-view going to start? He didn't even know he was on the air. So imagine how much of a talker he is, let alone a wrestler. But it was an okay match to see my favorite women's wrestler, Wendy Richter.
And please note, this is just a critique of him as a performer in the ring, not obviously what he's done in real life to other wrestlers. We do get that, and we're not mocking that in any way. This is just about him in the ring.
Apparently, he has helped certain wrestlers kick bad habits. Yes. But with a mixed tag team match, I get to see my favorite women's wrestler, Wendy Richter. All right, next match of the night. One of my all-time favorites, actually, Ron Garvin. He was announced as the man with the hands of stone. It's time. This is December of '88, so he's coming out of after his heel turn against Dusty Rhodes, the Bash '88. Now, it would have been disturbing if I had watched that. Against AWA favorite son, Greg Gagne. Now, they're fighting over a held-up international television title. Now, one thing I'm more surprised at, not in the match, but Greg Gagne's size is 218 pounds. Oh. And whoa, is that lightweight? Yep. That's where Donnie said that's why his father Vern never placed the AWA belt on him.
No, because it never would have worked out. Nobody would have believed it.
I'm surprised he didn't go after it. Now, I know he's been AWA Tag Team Champions with Jim Brunzell as the High Flyers. This international TV title is such a lackluster secondary title. The thing about Ron Garvin, even if he was throwing the punches at Gagne, it wasn't the knockout punches that he was known for in Crockett. And I was even compared to that when he was called Hands of Stone, that in this time period, Mike Tyson is in his third year as world heavyweight boxing champion, and I wouldn't say he was called Hands of Stone. He was called Iron Mike Tyson, but he was known for when the pay-per-views era started. He was known as a 90-second fighter. He would beat his opponent within 90 seconds or less.
And that was the gimmick that Ron had.
That Ron was using Hands of Stone, not knocking his opponents out, and he was throwing the punches at Gagne, and they were just selling. It wasn't fair match. It was a fair match, but I don't think they were selling enough of their hits. Not really.
Yeah, it was more like two people that never worked before trying to feel each
other out. And they've been feuding over this TV title, have been held up.
Yeah, so it doesn't make much sense for two people that have worked together before as to why it had to feel like two people that never interacted.
It almost seemed like this is the first, and they were working together. This match seemed like it was their very first match together. That's how it seemed like. And the strange ending was the one of the types of endings of a match I outright disliked, the over the top rope disqualification. Yeah. Great Gagne throws Ron Garvin out, and that's it.
Though, to be fair, we are talking about a match where neither was a champion because the title was held up.
The title was held up.
So it makes a little bit more sense on a title change here because neither one was a champion to begin with. So you can see where any win would.
Do I got that right? Gagne threw Ron Garvin out. Did I got that right, or Garvin threw?
Well, I think Garvin threw him out because Gagne is the one who's the champion.
Yeah,
so.
Garvin threw Gagne. That's what they said. Over the top rope disqualifications is one of the most it is quote unquote the most cop out way of ending a match among all the wrestling territories left over. It is so stupid, but it is the promoter's cop out way of ending a match, not having a proper finish or just a cop out,
or even a dirty finish.
A dirty finish, cop out. It's a cop out finish. It's ridiculous, and because the stupid disqualification, a type of a disqualification. Great Gagne now wins the held up international TV title, and
whatever happened to the title after this match? Because I don't remember much of that title at all.
No, I don't. It's the thing I said. They had a very vague, brief feud. Ron Garvin's just out of Crockett. It's like they were wrestling for the first time. So it wasn't really much of a match. I'm more surprised that Great Gagne was so lightweight at 218 pounds. But it was an okay match. I said they were working like they were. It wasn't a so match because it looked like it seemed like they were working with each other for the very first time. So it was a so match.
Yeah, you're basically 30 pounds lighter than Ric Flair. I mean, that's how light this guy was.
And like Donnie said, you were wondering why. I wonder why Vern didn't put the title belt on his own son.
Now you have a better understanding of it.
Next match of the night. How many women wrestlers were in there? A street fight lingerie battle royal. Now this is something that could have seen during the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
One name that I was surprised to see is he said Luna, and I looked it up. Oh, it actually was Luna Vachon, and a couple of Peggy Lee Leather. I'm missing the names. And actually, they're glow-based wrestlers, gorgeous ladies of wrestling
under the syndicated name of POW.
And they were syndicated cross country powerful women wrestling. POW. I remember the POW name being they held a show at the Philadelphia Civic Center. But strangely they came in some mystery clothes, some in dresses in high heels and skirts. That had to be uncomfortable, really.
Yeah, there were two different rules on it. But either
they
ripped to their
totally
clothes,
stripped to their
clothes or thrown over the top rope and hitting the floor. And for the most part, while a lot of the clothes were stripped, nobody got eliminated that way. Everyone that got eliminated were thrown over the top rope.
Yeah.
So that's how the eliminations happened.
Yeah, then some of the men get here, take it off. That's a typical male.
It's a typical 80s audience.
They said security was getting involved, and a man was he didn't seem like he got involved in the match, but 3 security guys escorted a fan away from ringside. Something had happened. That was disturbing there. But yeah, these were they were power glow-based women's wrestlers because David McLean, who's the producer of Glow, he was there presenting the check to the winner, who was the terrorist, and she really spoke some good amount of foreign language. Yeah. We have vagueness of kind of like the Iron Sheik, you couldn't tell if she was really a foreign woman wrestler. You couldn't honestly tell. She really sold herself as a foreigner, being a Middle East terrorist. She sold the character real well.
Yeah, for the most part, there wasn't that much wrestling in it.
Until
you got down to the last couple women, where the
90% of it was trying to strip each other their clothing.
But the last 2 competitors,
Brandy May, the farmer's daughter,
and the terrorist were actually trying to wrestle towards the end of the match.
Yeah, 80-90% of it, they're trying to strip each other's clothing. But the terrorist who really promoted herself, starting when this Battle Royal was being announced during the show, said, "I'm going to win this," and she did. She won it. Next match of the night. One thing I'll give the heel character, Colonel De Beers. It's Colonel De Beers against Sergeant Slaughter in a boot camp match, which is probably another name for a bunkhouse match. Colonel De Beers. I actually had to look him up if he were a foreigner, and I know he was an American. And he played the foreign character out of South Africa, a racist character. I remember reading about him in a few clips of his feud with Jimmy Snuka. He sold his character out of South Africa the way the Koloffs sold they were Russian. Yep. You couldn't tell the difference.
And overall, you basically had a regular standard bunkhouse match, which probably
it was hardly
the highlight of the match was probably Sergeant Slaughter using his helmet for headbutts. And the one time Colonel De Beers did use what they call the velvet rope that they use for movie theaters.
There was a metal stand that were for the ropes off the audience, and he picked it up off the ground and hit him twice with it.
So it is a different weapon to use in a match.
Barely. For a boot camp match, it was like almost an anything goes match. It wasn't bloody. It wasn't they beat the living hell out of each other. It was really a vagueness of this. It should have been. Then Colonel De Beers is being managed by Diamond Dallas Page, and then Slaughter gets his Cobra Clutch, his sleeper hold on Colonel De Beers, and Diamond Dallas Page. He's trying to get himself in the ring. He calls for help, and out comes a longtime AWA rival of Sergeant Slaughter, Sheik Adnan Al-Casey. And then,
of course, by the time anybody comes out, Slaughter has already won the match.
A disqualification.
No, I think he won with the sleeper.
Yeah, he beat Colonel De Beers with the sleeper in the Cobra Clutch.
Because he was raising the hand for the
now
first time.
He switches off Colonel De Beers and puts the Cobra Clutch on Sheik Al-Casey. Diamond Dallas Page, he waves his hand for somebody else help. Here comes Sergeant Slaughter's greatest rival, the Iron Sheik, the most legitimate foreign wrestler there ever was. So then comes a kind of a wild brawl, but then he's getting Sergeant Slaughter's getting triple teamed, and out comes the Guerrero brothers. Then this gets funny, where they help the Guerreros drop kick and kick the foreigners out. Slaughter does not know this. He goes to take a swing at Mano Guerrero. He doesn't even realize who's in the ring. He takes a swing at Mano. The other Guerreros, calm down, we're in here.
Yeah, so it didn't result in any bad blood between them on that.
No, but then with the Iron Sheik, Sergeant Slaughter tried to chase after Iron Sheik, tried to get him a Cobra Clutch. That didn't work. So Sheik ran off. One thing, Sergeant Slaughter, I would call him an upper mid Carter. But I think he's more if he's in the main event is when he gets overrated.
It's when he gets exposed for the limitations that he has.
He is limited. He's had great famous matches. I'll give him that. He's had great famous matches, but he is limited in what he does in the ring. He's a brawler. He is a brawler, like a Jim Duggan. He's a brawler. But the thing is, everybody knows him for he's called as he's America's hero. Yeah, he's just coming off the GI Joe cartoon run, and ironically his character he voiced the character. He got more attention on the GI Joe than I would say half and half. He got more attention nationwide.
It definitely gave him more of a focus on a younger audience.
Yeah, younger audience, sure. National and worldwide attention on the GI Joe character. Then, he was a wrestler who worked all the territories, and he was well known as a Sergeant Slaughter character. But this match with Colonel De Beers, I was curious. The Colonel De Beers, they promoted him from South Africa, where the Iron Sheik is the real foreign wrestler out of Iran. But it wasn't the bunk. It wasn't even though I don't think it was even announced as a bunkhouse match. It was a fight. It was a fight. But it wasn't, honestly, God, one of Sergeant Slaughter's better matches. Not really.
No, it's just an average match from his perspective.
Yeah. All right, next match tonight is for the WCCW Tag Team Champions. And I want to question about the WCCW situation. I know I've repeated this. I think it's because with the break of from NWA, they only renamed their world title WCWA. And they kept the other titles WCCW.
Because of some more recognizable names.
Now, the Samoan SWAT team, I've always been a big fan of all the Samoans. Samoan SWAT team. There was a Head Triggers. I think they were the renamed Samoan SWAT team. Any version of the Samoans. I've been a big fan of the Samoan family. They're defending their world-class tag team titles against Michael Hayes and Steve Cox. Now, the Samoan SWAT team are side managed by Buddy Roberts. Apparently, the Freebirds have had a breakup around in 1988. Whomever's watching this video, please explain what happened with the Freebirds. Now, I can read it on Wikipedia. If you know world class history far better than I do, and this Freebird breakup, explain what happened, because it's hard to believe the Freebirds would break up in any way, shape, or form. And
it's harder to believe that they wouldn't make a big deal out of it.
Even the magazines didn't cover it that well.
You figured it would.
Now, Michael Hayes' team with Steve Cox, and I just read up on him that he's a protege. He just started, and he worked with all the territories that Michael Hayes would. And all I heard about him, in this show and vaguely about the World Class, they had a lot of low and mid carders, particular names I remember out of World Class. Now, Michael Hayes. They said Michael Hayes is far more experienced. There was one thing that didn't you hear them strangely mention? That one of the announcers had said something strangely about
what?
I forget what that you mentioned. It was something about it wasn't Buddy Roberts. Something that was said.
Oh no! About the only Buddy Roberts thing as I had was about a joke when he said Buddy Roberts, who's a competent worker, and I'm thinking, that's the best compliment.
That's the best you're gonna say about Buddy Roberts. And I don't like Buddy Roberts myself, but a competent wrestler.
But you're an announcer; it's your business to hype up the people, and that's the best.
That's the best word you could come up with. Would I call him a competent wrestler? I call him the absolute weak link of the Freebirds. Absolutely, because Jimmy Garvin could have been better. I mean, I understand Buddy Roberts being a Southern-based wrestler. Jimmy Garvin was a far better wrestler than Buddy Roberts by a mile. And they said that this is Steve Cox's way of being, for a nationwide or worldwide pay-per-view where Steve Cox could show himself the ability. And it was an okay match because Steve Cox is so new and Michael Hayes' protege.
The finish didn't involve him.
It was a so-so ending, but I think Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy, they would have easily taken it to the Samoan SWAT team. In a far better match if Terry Gordy was involved. But Michael Hayes goes cover one of the Samoans, and Buddy Roberts very vaguely clunks
him in the back.
Michael's in the back, and then rolls one of the Samoans on top of Michael, and then Samoans defeat Steve Cox, Michael Hayes, and Samoan SWAT team retain the World Class Tag Team titles. Yep. And again, another so-so match. Again, please explain to me what happened with the Freebirds. Please comment.
And also, no real title changes.
No. Next match tonight was a really brutal, bloody Indian strap match. Chief Wahoo McDaniel against a Raging Bull Manny Fernandez. Wow, this was bloody and brutal, and that's an understatement. Yep. Well, beat the living hell out of each other, bloodied each other, crimson mask, blood. Beat the living.
What you're supposed to expect from an Indian strap match.
Yeah, but expect from these two guys, veterans. Wow, it says I have great respect for those guys. Wahoo McDaniel, I've been a fan of. Raging Bull Manny Fernandez, I've been a big fan of. You know, this is where I won't choose sides. It doesn't matter who wins, even if they have a title holders. I wouldn't care. I love guys that they beat the living hell out of each other, bloody the living hell out of each other. Indian strap match. It said Wahoo McDaniel's never lost one.
And if for some reason anyone is listening wants to comment, can you please explain why the IWGP champion made an appearance at this
Tatsumi Fujinami, the IWGP International Wrestling Grand Prix, which is the top title in all of Japan. He made an appearance in a suit and tie, and why he made an appearance is a good question.
The only thing that made a clue was some kind of interaction he had with Manny Fernandez, so it made it sound like maybe Manny was over.
Yeah, something with Manny Fernandez. They were at ends there. They a major dislike between them, but. This is one of the bloodiest. It's not often you see the Indian strap match. The last one you saw was 2 years ago, Stark 86 against Rick Rude. Now, the irony with this is Manny Fernandez, who would have in that match in Starrcade seconded. He has heel turn seconded Rick Rude, his new tag team partner. And Manny Fernandez was put up in that side of a cage out of the way he wouldn't interfere. So this is gonna, and then I read it. This was one bloody match. And it was.
It definitely lived up to that aspect of it.
Yeah, and apparently Manny Fernandez ended up knocking Wahoo into the fourth turnbuckle to finish the Indian strap match for Wahoo, who would be
once again continue.
He's the Andre the Giant of Indian strap matches,
right.
undefeated, never lost one. But one thing, Wahoo came back and they pulled him back for the interview, and he said, "This Indian strap match definitely did not settle things. If I have to get a gun, we're gonna end up killing each other." Whoa! The way Wahoo talked it was like serious. That's how you're supposed to promo. Yeah. You threaten each other. You threaten each other to almost a personal level that we can't tell the difference. Wow, they are really going to kill each other.
The personal end was him saying, "I don't want to beat this man. I want him
kill
dead.
him. I want him dead." See, that's the way you're supposed to promo. It's supposed to be so realistic. We can't tell the difference. Wow, these guys want to kill each other. That's the way you're supposed to promo. And this is the territory days coming to an end. But yeah, a great match between two guys I greatly respect. A bloody, beat the living hell out of each other. Wahoo McDaniel defeating Manny Fernandez in an Indian strap match. All right, the main event came down to the unification between AWA World Champion Jerry the King Lawler and WCCW World Champion
Kerry
Von Erich. Now, before I even get to the match, I find it absolute hypocrisy on both their ends that they're declaring themselves world champion. Has either of these guys defended the title, if it's quote-unquote a world title, they never defend it outside their own territories? Lawler, Memphis, Tennessee, Kerry Von Erich, Texas. Neither of them. I mean, if they go to Japan, but I don't think they did. Show me proof they've defended their titles in anywhere in the world. Comments, people. Prove they've defended these titles around the world. But then Lawler, and they said they want a unification. There can only be one world champion. Have you guys defended the title outside of your own areas? You want to bitch about a world champion? Hell, when ECW did it in 1994, all they did was elevate themselves from a regional to get recognized. And I think that's all you guys did was to make yourself recognized outside of Texas and outside of Memphis, Tennessee. Is recognized. But you did not defend the title. If you defended in Japan, in Europe, anywhere else, comments. Tell me where they defended it. Now, great hard-fought match.
Yeah.
Now with Kerry Von Erich, apparently when he had a robe on, but I don't know if I thought it was when he walked out at the dressing room area toward into the arena area. I heard that he had cut his his bicep or his arm by his armpit.
So
Apparently, it took place when he took his robe off.
Yeah, that's what but the announcers were making it sound like it took place during the beginning of the match. That's something Lawler did.
But he cut himself something about a ring post or something, and he was favoring it because he kept checking his under his arm. He was favoring it, but there was no blood dropping. No blood dropping around his arm at all. This was really hard fought battle. They threw out all the stops.
Yeah, it's one of those that start off slow, does the normal test of strength, but then the intensity ramps up further.
They started beating each other with every move out of the book. They threw every move they had at each other. The Iron Claw, pile drivers,
false finishes.
Yeah, they did everything. Now comes the conclusion. Well,
the post-match probably explained it better than the match itself on the end. The post-match was a good explanation for it.
I think it was then it had a ref bump. Yeah. And that Kerry Von Erich goes to cover Lawler, and the referee's slowly recovering, and he's down for about 10-15 second count. He was down for a count. And now here's the thing. Now earlier, that outside the ring, Kerry had punched. Goes to throw a punch at Lawler. I thought that Kerry was going to hit the ring post, his head first. He punched the ring post, so they said maybe his hand is broke. When they got back in the ring, Lawler has a foreign object of some kind. It's never revealed. You never see the actual object. No. Lawler kept that. He was very good at it. He kept the object very. You could not see it at all.
You couldn't see it
at all. And he clobbered Kerry Von Erich at least twice with it. But then it opens up a cut on Kerry's eye.
And possibly up to 4 times from what I saw. It could have been 4 times he hit it.
And then Kerry's eye, his whole face became a crimson mask of red blood. His whole face was totally covered.
And the last few minutes in the match became a debate about whether he could pin or submit Lawler versus the blood that kept falling out of his eye.
But Kerry made comebacks. He was in the match as much as the referee kept checking on Kerry's eye. There was a representative of World Class, their matchmaker, Frank Dusek, kept saying, Kerry can keep going, let him go, he can keep going. The referee kept checking his eye. And then Kerry, he made a comeback. He was pummeling Lawler. He was making a big comeback. The referee kept checking on his eye, and eventually, it was the basis that the AWA president Stanley Blackburn said that because of the Indian strap match between Wahoo McDaniel and Ranger Romano Fernandez, they were a bloody match that the referee could stop the match due to the amount of blood. Right. However, Kerry Von Erich, he kept on going. As much as the first time you could see blood the first time Kerry started bleeding, he was down. Jerry Lawler was pummeling him.
But the end of the match ended up with Kerry Von Erich above Jerry Lawler with the claw on.
Jerry Lawler's flat out, and Kerry Von Erich's got his iron claw on Lawler. The referee is paying more attention to the blood. Now with this, that suddenly the referee says, stop the match. And apparently Stanley Blackburn told the referee, if there's too much blood, stop the match. Okay, the match just is an exact copy of Stark 84, if everybody remembers this, of Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, and former boxing champion Joe Frazier was a special referee. And Ric Flair rammed Dusty's face into the outside ring post. That's what I thought. Kerry had hit the ring post face first. No, his hand did. Right. And Joe Frazier kept checking Dusty's face, and Dusty's known for bleeding. In the finish of that match, Dusty said in an interview, Joe Frazier, this is not boxing, this is professional wrestling. That's why Kerry was so angry. I've never known a match to stop the blood. Well, you didn't remember Stark 84, apparently. But the referee stops the match. Apparently, too much blood. They're calling for the safety of Kerry Von Erich, and Jerry Lawler is awarded the Unified World Championships with World Class and the AWA World titles. Now, the one thing I kept bitching about through this whole show is they kept saying WCCW title. Now, back at the third annual Parade of Champions, Rick Rude was announced as the WCWA, World Class Wrestling Association World Champion.
So what exactly happened between that time and this show?
What happened in 2 years that they sent it back to WCCW, where the break off of the NWA? Something is missing. People, explain this to me. Comments, explain this to me.
And the other thing that probably comes out of it is you probably had a case where both champions were never going to agree to have one pin or submit the other, so they basically had to figure out another finish. And I guess this is the only thing they could.
Now you also commented that you're saying this was not that good a finish whatsoever for a major pay-per-view.
It was a great match. It's a match that got better. It's just the finish that wasn't right for a unification match.
Yeah. And it also
should have had a finish because of because it was title.
It also reminds me of Great American Bash '88, where they needed a finish and weren't sure what to do, and they had Lex Luger bleed barely. The blood was barely visible, and the Maryland Athletic Commissioner Frank Iannucci they were told they could not bleed in Baltimore, Maryland, or the state of Maryland. They could not bleed at all, and they used this cop out. Have Luger bleed a tiny bit. It wasn't enough. It pissed the fans off. Where Frank Iannucci actually stops the match for real. This was legitimate. He told her he stopped the match.
Yeah.
So similar. I said this was a weak finish for a major pay-per-view in a title unification match.
Surprise.
Now, what hypocritically happens again, as I said before, as I started this review of this match, with Jerry Lawler and Kerry Von Erich, both. Would they defend their titles outside of their areas? Well, Jerry Lawler sure as hell didn't, because I looked up years ago that Vern Gagne makes contacts with him in Memphis, Tennessee. Oh, well, you have to defend the title in our areas on our schedule. No, I'm Unified World Champion. I decide when that title. Well, Vern Gagne strips Jerry Lawler of the AWA World title for not defending in AWA areas and on schedule. But Jerry Lawler renamed and remained, let me even say it again, renamed, RENAMED, renamed and remained, he called himself the Unified World Champion, USWA Unified World Champion throughout many years. He kept himself
because he never was going to recognize.
He was never going to recognize the AWA title and the World Class title. So in Memphis, Tennessee, they kept a unified world title. Kerry Von Erich, back to Texas. I'm not sure exactly, but I'll tell you one thing. Okay, they said, would there be a rematch? In an interview with Stanley Blackburn and Larry Nelson, he said, and I don't think there was another rematch. They had about 2 to 3 matches before this. And I'm not sure the outcomes of that.
And I'm surprised they didn't decide to have another rematch.
No,
it might have worked.
Because of this lousy finish, it killed it. And both companies were suffering financially anyway. This pay-per-view really didn't get the pay-per-view rating. It didn't get the pay-per-view rating.
So in other words, instead of saving the business, it ended up
it practically killed the business. The finish really hurt.
Yeah.
And both companies financially suffered
because of it.
So for a major pay-per-view. There
are consequences to having a bad finish to a pay-per-view, and this is one of the ultimate ones.
And it costed both of these wrestlers their titles,
and both
on a quote unquote world basis. This pay-per-view cost the company.
Yeah.
And that was a review of SuperClash 3. All right, the last match of the night to close the SuperClash 3 pay-per-view, the Rock and Roll Express versus Jimmy Golden and Robert Kroll, the Stud Stable, a group out of the Tennessee territory. I know the Fullers were the founders of the Tennessee territory. Why this match is the closing match? No title on the line. It was said that if the Rock and Roll Express defeat Jimmy Golden and Robert Fuller, they'll get a shot at the tag team champions. I think it's Pat Tanaka and Paul Diamond. They'll get a shot at the tag team titles. They did at least pronounce the Rock and Roll Express four-time World Tag Team Champions, but they didn't say NWA World Tag Team Champions. They just said 3 or 4-time World Tag Team Champions. I have to say right from the start here, the Rock and Roll Express have been my all-time favorite tag team ever since my first live show, August 16th, 1986, at the Philadelphia Civic Center, when they regained the titles from the Midnight Express. I was there, 10th row, a night I'll never forget. They've been my all-time favorite team ever since. This match should have been definitely early in the show. It wasn't much of a match. honest to God, I didn't see much from Jimmy Golden and Robert Fowler. This is the first time I've ever seen these two. I believe I saw Robert Fowler managing a team in WCW, and Jimmy Golden, I've only heard of him, so it's the SuperClash show is a mixture of a few of the territories, more the AWA and World Class. This is like a territory combination of Inside Wrestling Magazine's Roll Call of Champions, which I saw, which was all the champions of all the territories, Japan, around the world, all territories, every single title there ever was in pro wrestling. This is what the show reminded me of. Again, this wasn't really much of the match. This was not one of Rock'n'Roll Express's best matches. Why they ended this show, this pay-per-view, with this, I guess they didn't want to see, a disturbing way of how Kerry Von Erich would lose to Jerry Lawler. But the match ends with they're practically all 4 men outside the ring, and they're in and out of the ring both of them. And I thought there would be a double count out, and the result says on Wikipedia it says double disqualification. Why did the referee call for double disqualification? It's a good. What in the heck? What was he disqualified? Because the match got out of control. It wasn't really much of a brawl. They just started to, but all four began to brawl outside, and I thought it would end up in a double count out. I'll tell you one thing: Robert Gibson took more of a brunt of assault. He took more of the punishment. Then usually he's the one who takes the most punishment too. Ricky Morton. They said one thing about the Rock and Roll Express, Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson, they know how to sell punishment and get the crowd behind them. Originally, this match, when I was watching this match, I heard somebody yelling boring. Then a little bit later on, the fans started chanting rock and roll, rock and roll. Okay. This was really one of the worst tag team matches, worst matches of Rock and Roll Express's career, and they end up a so-called major pay-per-view this way, a double disqualification, it seeming like a double count-out. This should have been the first few matches on the show. This was a disappointing match to end the show. Rock and Roll Express versus the Stud Stable, Jimmy Golden and Robert Fowler as a double disqualification. I tell you one thing: Stud Stable, Jimmy Golden and Robert Fowler, they had a valet of some kind holding a kendo stick. She pummeled Robert Gibson 3 or 4 times. She did more in this match than Jimmy Golden and Robert Fowler did. Really. She had more action. She did more in this assaulting on the Rock and Roll Express than Golden and Fuller did. And I've never heard of her before. But this was a poor match to end the show. Really, I would get a low star match. It's not one of Rock and Roll Express's. Ricky Morton got a one drop kick out of it. I don't even think they got my favorite move, my favorite finishing move, the double drop kick. I don't even think they got that in. So it was a poor match to end the show for a pay-per-view that's going to cost both AWA and World Class financially. A disappointing match, sorry to say.